Hello, good morning. It's just gone 8 AM on Tuesday the 12th of May and I'm just off to the seaside. More specifically, I'm off to the North Somerset coastline between Blind Yeo and Clevedon. I'm going to go over and explore some off-road coastal routes that were opened up recently, about 2 years ago, as part of the Pier Way. I'm not actually going to go to both piers, although I'm going to go to 2 piers. I'll explain what that's about later on. 5 weeks today, I'll be on my summer cycle tour. So I'll give you an update about where I am on that, because all the logistics are in place to get in there and to get it back, and accommodation, some of it. So I'll tell you about that. I'm on the old Bath to Bristol cycle track, runs along the course of the old Midland Railway. I'm going to turn off shortly, head westwards towards Blind Yeo, and I'll speak to you when we're much closer to the coast, and I'll tell you about the Pier Way. Hello, it's now a few hours later. I'm down on the northern Somerset levels. I always refer to this section as the Windy Willow levels. You'll see what I mean shortly. They're very distinctive and quite different to the more well-known Somerset levels down near Glastonbury and around Bridgewater, that area. They're more peaty. Right behind me is the Frankie Howard Community Cafe. He actually used to have a holiday home down here, spent many weekends down here apparently, just downtime, chilling out. So we are really not far from the coast now. There's this big inland flat area as we approach Burnham-on-Sea. Just north of it is going to be Blind Yeo, and we're going to get on some off-road tracks there, start making our way up towards Uphill on the outskirts of Weston-super-Mare. And then we're going to get on the pier-to-pier route. It's a new sustrans route. It was opened about 2 years ago. Haven't been along it yet, although I know the area really well. I'll try and explain why it's such a well thought out and good idea as we get a little bit closer. But before we leave here, this is Loxton. I want to just show you a couple of little points of interest. So there's the Frankie Howard Community Cafe there. The Webbington is a big white hotel building up there. Went to see Slade there back in the 70s or 80s. That yellow flag is the flag of Somerset. It's a yellow background with a red dragon on. It was Somerset Day yesterday, so I guess that's why they're flying it. Look at this outside Loxton Garage. There's these lovely old petrol pumps, or diesel, whatever it would be. Gosh, I remember those from my childhood. Being taken out by some relatives, Slimbridge, something like that, and pulling up at a petrol station. The guys come out as you fill the car. Just brings back all those memories. So he's surrounded by the Mendips here. You can see, although the motorway is just over there and the A road's going into Weston-super-Mare, this is kind of a back local road into Weston-super-Mare and Bleedon. But just over there used to be a community bus shelter. I want to just go and see if it's still as lovely as I remember it from a few years ago. Lovely little community bus shelter here. Pretty sure they had a book exchange here once before. Just look at that, how lovely it is. So we're heading down that way and we're going to explore the pier-to-pier route. It's a sustrans route which opened a couple of years ago using a network of lanes which avoids a busy road section between Weston-super-Mare and Clevedon. And before, you would have to ride up north of Weston-super-Mare, deviate inland to use a very busy bit of the A370, I think, and then veer back into Clevedon that way. Well, I think they've accessed some old farm bridges over some reams and drainage ditches. Although it's been open a couple of years, I haven't actually been down to ride along it. Some of my Strava friends in alphabetical order, Gareth, Kate, Rich and Steve, for instance, they've written it and they've done videos of it or shown pictures or little video clips, and I just thought I must get down to explore that, and that's what I'm doing today. The theme of the route, Pier to Pier, joins Grand Pier in West-super-Mare with Clevedon Pier. The wind's picked up down here. I think it's like the coastal breeze coming from the west. That big hill behind us, very distinctive peak. That's one of the famous Mendip Hills, Crook Peak I think it's called. I did a rough camp there a few years ago. There's that very distinctive smell of muck spreading, which I don't mind whatsoever. Makes me think of the countryside, farming and food. Little shelter there, is that sheep? Yeah. I thought it was a llama at first. See what I mean about the windy willows? We'll be riding right alongside those shortly, and it is windy, I can assure you. Get all these long grasses, reeds along here. This is White Horse Bridge across one of the big channels. As well as the small drainage reeds, there's three big channels. There's King's Sedgemoor, Queen's Sedgemoor, I can't remember what the other one's called. We're looking right towards the Mendip transmitter, the very far distance in the hill line. And then in the near distance, those bridges, that's the M5 going across, that heading up to Bristol that way, down to Exeter that way. We're continuing this way. It's glorious. Western-super-Mare, which we'll be passing through shortly, literally just a few miles that way, but we're going to hit the coast and then ride up alongside it to Uphill and then come in from the south. Look at that, looking back at the Mendips, and believe it or not, the coastline is not far from here, just across a couple of miles from these Somerset levels. Very agricultural farmland around here, as you can see. High hedgerows. Although the wind's a bit gusty, may or may not be coming out because I've got the wind flare foam cover over the camera. But the hedgerows seem to be protecting us from the worst. Another good side-on view of Brent Knoll. Looking back at the Mendips the way I came. See all the white houses and the settlements up along the top. If we scan towards the coast, can you see that big grassy mound there? That's Brent Knoll. It's a really famous local landmark. And it's said that John Wesley, the father of Methodicism, when he was round this area preaching, he went up there one evening at sunset and got inspiration for his sermon. And I always think of that when I come here. I learnt that through one of my favourite landscape photographers, a guy called Chris Chapman. He did a series on our local ITV network channel. He did a series, I think it's called Secrets of the Levels. I've got them on video cassette somewhere. I can't play them these days because I don't have a VHS recorder. He was a black and white landscape photographer. He took amazing photographs around here and just told stories from his days when he was a student motorcycling around here looking for subjects. Can you see why I call it the windy willows? Because you get all these reeds sticking up and it is quite windy down here, although we're sheltered from a lot of it actually by these hedgerows, but we're really not that far from the coast. Can you see why I refer to this part of the Somerset levels as the windy willows? Lots of reeds, and it really is getting quite windy. It's coming off the sea, I think. Look at that direction we're heading. There's some poppies out. Get a little bit of traffic along here, not too much. Very indicative of the area. Look, little silted up green, little drainage channel, Rhine or Rhine depending on how you pronounce it. varies, different parts of the country I believe. Little culvert going under the road I expect, yeah. So really are just behind the coast here, because it's so flat. So at Holland you don't see the sea until you're almost in it. I just love this area, I really do. So 5 weeks today I'll be in the Norfolk Broads area of outstanding natural beauty, and it's very similar to here. I know not everybody likes flat cycling, but I do find it very evocative. I love it, and it's why I've been bumping up the distances recently. I rode a 100-kilometre Audax near Bristol on Saturday, the South Gloss. Really enjoyed that. Rode there and back, which made it an Imperial Century, about 108 miles. Second ton I've done on this bike. Today would be 80 something miles. I'll put the route on at the end of the video. I'll use my Strava track, because my proposed route I've been deviating from it a little bit. We're actually in the village of Brentnall now, so that's the foot of Brentnall Hill. Someone flying the Somerset flag. I'm Somerset born and bred, so I'm fiercely proud of our culture. I love it, our heritage. That pastorally building there with the old Roman numerals clock on its gable end. Wow. And all the reeds that side. We're going to join a gravel track shortly. We're going to head over towards the coast, which is actually not that far over there, and it's going to take us around the edge of a caravan park. And as if from nowhere, the resorts and the coast starting to appear. Few signs giving you indications, but it's so flat here you wouldn't know you're very close to the sea. It'll just suddenly come into view. We're going to head for a big caravan park, which we have permission to go around. Can you see that? 3 sides of a square there. GPS route. That'd be along here. The wind really has picked up. Gosh, I turned, as I approached the coast, I hit a T-junction and I turned left heading south-southwest, and it was really into the brunt of that wind. And it's quite benign now, but gosh, it was quite fierce riding into it. So you can see, popular leisure route with cyclists. So route number 33, the Blind Way. That's Blind down over there. I did a rough camp up there a few years ago. I remember pulling in here to fill up my water bag. Looking back at Brentnall, as this river comes in to join the sea. So these are all salt marshes behind us. Remains of old fishing shacks maybe, I don't know. The tide does go out a long way at Weston-super-Mare. It's an estuary in effect rather than a coastal tide. So there's a lot of salt marshes over there. Look at this. I'm just being blown along now. Long may this continue. Looking left at Blind Down. Back out towards Mendips. Towards south right now. 5 weeks today I'll be on my cycle tour. I'm retracing old ancient pilgrim routes in East Anglia. I made a video about it back at the end of the winter. A few down from this if you want to know more. But the logistics. I've got a train from Bath through London to Norwich. Got the first night at the Travelodge in Norwich. And then I head towards the coast. Then weave up down along the coast inland. I'll end up at King's Lynn. The Travelodge prices at King's Lynn were prohibitive really, so I'm just going to camp there because I've got a train back the next morning. But I've got some absolute bargains, I think so I'll just stop here and tell you the prices. So the train fares, I got Bath Spa to Norwich for £38.90 and King's Lynn back to Bath Spa £19.30. I'm amazed, that's actually a longer journey. Probably cost more than that to get down to Weymouth for the day from Bath. So I grabbed some real bargains. I've learned how to use the Trainline app now, plus the fact I've got a senior rail card. And the Travelodge, Norwich Central, that'd be the first night after my arrival, £35.99. So it all comes to less than £95, £94.19. I've just added it up. That's not bad, is it? I will be staying at campsites this year, I hope, as much as possible. I've turned full circle in the last year or so. I've just really gone off rough camping and I just prefer campsites if I can find them. And the app I used last year was absolutely fantastic. Cannot recommend it highly enough. The full cycle tour route is only 185.3 miles. I'm sure it'll be more than that because I'll be doing lots of deviations and detours over the coast. So it starts at Norwich, heads to the coast at Great Yarmouth, then following these pilgrim routes and then ending up at King's Lynn. Although I overshoot it to finish one of the pilgrim routes and then come back. But last year I finished my Thankful Villagers cycle tour at Great Yarmouth and then got the train back to Bath. And I had to get a train, a little small train from Great Yarmouth to Norwich, and I went across the Broads and I loved that. I just thought I've got to go back, and you can see I'll be doing it on all these old pilgrim routes along there, which includes a lot of off-road. There's even a ferry. But see that big water there just before Great Yarmouth? I saw a fantastic video by a really brilliant young filmmaker on Facebook the other day, so let me explain. If you're on Facebook or any of the social media sites, you'll know the algorithm feeds you what it thinks you're interested in or what it wants you to buy probably. Anyway, this short clip came up by this really young guy. He looks so young enough to be my grandson, but he's brilliant filmmaker. I wish I could do shorts as good as him. Anyway, he went to Britain's most isolated and least used station of a particular year and he filmed it. I'll put a link to that below. It's only about a minute long and he really captures it perfectly for me, inspired me, and I thought, gosh, that looks good. That must be on the line that I took from Great Yarmouth to Norwich last year and I wanted to explore it. I looked on my Ride with GPS routes and it's literally about a mile off. Whether I can get there on bike or not, I do not know, because it does say it's only accessible by boat, rail or foot. I'm hoping that may include bicycle, but we'll see. I really want to go to that station. It's amazing where inspiration comes from. Just, you get inspiration from different domains, don't you? Then try and integrate it into your own ideas. That young guy, and of course I've started following him now, and I've seen his other videos and it's just absolutely great. So yeah, thank you buddy, because you've really inspired me to go to that station. So I'm really excited. Everything's set, ready to go. I've been watching other people's preparations for their tours. They do walking tours or four-wheel drive tours, people like Paul Messner and Kent Survival, so that's really fired me up. I've been loving watching theirs, and I'll see the outcome of their trips hopefully before I go, so I get great inspiration from those two in particular, Paul Messner, Kent Survival. Here we are, right on the outskirts of Weston-super-Mare. So that's uphill there, St Nicholas Church on the hilltop. That's partially ruined, partially opened. I think the chancel's intact and the nave is not, or the other way around. It's a redundant church. It's managed and cared for by the Church's Conservation Trust. You can go in on open days. When I say in, the bit with the roof. We're going to be riding right underneath that, looking up the cliff at it. And then we're coming to uphill hill nature reserve through there. Can you see the sheep stair cliff and the church perched right on its edge? We're going to ride right alongside that and end up uphill marina. What a fantastic way to enter West-on-Sea with this view. That's looking up at St Nicholas. You can clearly see the part of the church which doesn't have a roof and is just an empty shell. I've just seen my first view of the sea. As I say, it's not really the sea, it's an estuary coast, and it's very, very brown looking. It's got to be a really sunny day here for the sea to ever look clean here. Somerset people always refer to West-on-Sea as West-on-Sea mud. I've known it called that all my life, so I think it's a fairly accurate description. Oh, coming into the marina, look. See just how steep those cliffs are. Nice little picnic area. And I'm going to be looking for some shelter. I'll probably wait till I get the seafront because there's some wind shelters there. I'll have my sandwich there. Here we are at the other end of Uphill Local Nature Reserve. An amazing view looking up at that picnic area, as you can see. Don't know if you can hear all the wind whistling through those mast ropes. So the sand blowing in off the sea. So that's the Down Peninsula there. Looks like an island here, but it's actually connected to the land. And that's the island of Steepholm out there, one of the 3 Bristol Channel Islands. So I always think that is the beginning of the Mendips, because if you look at it on a map, they run in a straight line. There's that, it dips down here, and then the Mendips head over that way towards Wells, Cheddar and through. This is West-on-Sea. There's the Grand Pier in front of us. That's where the pier-to-pier route starts from. And there's the old pier right there, Burnbeck Pier. That's the one that's being regenerated. That's what I want to go and have a look at. Gosh, the wind is so strong. You hear it flapping on my high vis. See all the sand being blown up. I'm going to try and find a stone shelter somewhere to get out to have my sandwich. I wonder if that might be a windproof shelter there. Going to need to get out this wind to have my sandwich. So that's the pier in front of us with a big white amusement arcade on it. That's the Grand Pier. That's where the pier-to-pier route starts from. Goes round the coast, past that other one, round the edge of those woods there. That's Cusack Woods. Gosh, look at those sand patterns. Gosh, look at all those. Look at all that sand being blown in. As you can see, we're right outside the Grand Pier on West-on-Sea front. That's the way we've come in. It's Breen down over there. Steepholm, one of the 3 Bristol Channel Islands, just to the left of the side of the pier. And we're going to follow the seafront round there, round the edge of the woods. And just round the corner will be Burnbeck Pier, which is being regenerated. Our grandparents brought me and my brother down here for holidays, got wonderful memories. Limited budget, they weren't that particularly well off, but they always made sure we were well fed and properly clothed, and they did their best to give us holidays, and these are some of the best holidays in my life actually. I've got such fond memories. And as a treat each year they would take us on the paddle steamer from Burnbeck Pier across to Barry Island or Penarth. The Burnbeck Pier was the original pier. It's known in our day as the old pier. This would be kind of the newer one. As I said, we came here for my holidays as a child in the 60s, and then all through the 70s, 80s, 90s onwards. As I went into adulthood, I would look at it all barricaded up and just left to decay and rot, and it probably wouldn't have lasted much longer, to be honest. I think the council did a compulsory purchase, and they're going to plough some money in it to regenerate and restore it. Well, here we are looking at the regeneration project of Burnbeck Pier. Each year, once during the fortnight, we would get the ferry from that landing point there, paddle steamer across to Wales over there, Barry Island or Penarth Pier, and then during the 60s, my childhood, the paddle steamers, I think they were the Bristol Queen and the Cardiff Queen, were decommissioned, taken out of service, and then there were diesel fuelled ones, more modern ones, but they still had character. Westward How or Waverley, whatever it was. And then as I became an adult, I would often ride by here and see it literally left to ruin really. The owner just bought it and abandoned it, and all the wooden decking was rotting, and you can see they've clearly taken all that off. And then a few years ago, can you see the right angled pier there? That was the landing point. There was a big storm and that got broken and damaged. I think in the end the council did a compulsory purchase before it actually fell in the sea, and it looks like it's actually disconnected from the land actually, whether that's deliberate to stop people going on there at night. I did see some of these videos and photographs at the start of this project where they bought this kind of floating harbour with all these cranes across to do some of the work, but there's a lot of people down there. It would just be so good to see that saved and repaired and to be able to go back on it. First time I've seen the regeneration project, and although it looks in very poor state, in many ways it's in better condition now than it was 2 years ago when it was just left to rot. At least you've got a lot of skilled people on there now helping to bring it back to life and save it. So we're going to carry on through the woods here, along the cliff, around the edge of Sand Bay, and then we're going to head up towards Wick St Lawrence. And previously what you had to do to get to Clevedon, you had to go up the coast, go inland, join a very busy main road, go up and then turn left into Clevedon. But now you can go on minor roads, and the peer-to-peer cycle route will then take us across the coastal plain into the south of Clevedon, cross some old bridges. I believe there may be one new one installed, and I think there's an old railway bridge or some farm bridges we've got permission to go across. This will be the first time I've done this section, so I'm really looking forward to it. We're now about 5 miles north of Weston-super-Mare, up the coast, very close to the seafront. You can see we've come through Qstoke, Weston-super-Mare there, 5 miles. Signposted the Pier Way. Now before, you could go along here if I was heading back to Bath, but you'd have to kind of do an inverse U and then come back, or just start heading up towards Clevedon that way via a main road. But now you can go along there and use these farm tracks and new bridges. So it's very well signposted with the blue Sustrans signs, and it's got the brown touristy peer-to-peer signs, so it's all part of Route 33 still. So this next part I'm really looking forward to. As I said, these minor roads have always been here. They've really just led up to the sea, or it curls round and goes back that way. And that A370, I've ridden it many times, that stretch. It's only about 3 or 4 miles, and you can pavement it, I think, safely. It's a country main road, so as long as there's nobody walking on it, I think it's okay to ride that. Obviously if there's people walking, you just get off and wait till they've passed. It was so windy at Weston-super-Mare, had to put a long sleeve winter top on. I'll keep that on for the coastal section. The minute you head east towards Bath, it's favourable again, temperature wise and wind assisted wise, because it's coming up to 3 PM. So I was beginning to think, gosh, I'm going to be getting home very late. But that's the reason I'm not carrying on up to Clevedon Pier. I can turn eastwards almost as soon as I get into Clevedon. Wick St Lawrence Church by the look of it. That'd be one for another day. Back on the North Somerset levels again. The very northern extreme of them. Just as we pass the Binman, I think we're coming up to our left-hand turn. Okay, we're coming up to our left-hand turn. I've been so looking forward to coming here. This is the section I've really been looking forward to, the Pier Way, Route 33. So this is built on the old track bed of the Western, Clevedon and Portishead Railway. There's some pictures of it in its day. And this is what I've been trying to explain. So we came north from Weston-super-Mare, and we always had to go in to join that road up there, go inland, and then come into Clevedon that way. So now we can follow the course of the old railway up the coast. There's a more detailed map of it. The site of Wick St Lawrence Station. Gosh, the station was here. And we're going to go this way, cross the River Yeo. Looks like we have to do a big loop around there. We'll wait and see. It's very well signposted. Then to Kingston, Seymour, across the levels up to Clevedon. So, Weston-super-Mare to Clevedon without having to go inland on main roads. This is the site of the Wick St Lawrence station, which was typical of country stations on this line. This remote station was halfway between Clevedon and Weston and had a passing loop. It was manned until 1928 with a waiting room and ticket office. The railway was 14 miles long with 20 stations, most very basic. The railway opened from Weston-super-Mare to Clevedon on the 1st of December 1897 and was extended to Portishead in 1907. The Greenway uses the old trackbed from here to the River Yeo and the Yeo Bank Lane. Although the railway ran through sparsely populated countryside, it did provide a useful service to villagers and farmers who could easily get their produce to market. The railway was 14 miles long with 20 stations, most very basic with no platform as here. It was always short of money, most of the locomotives and rollers stock being bought second hand. Increase in road transport in the 1930s worsened the railway's finances. World War II was the last straw and the railway closed on the 18th of May 1940. Little of the railway now survives, but there are still things to see and stretches of the route can be walked, such as here, with more to be opened in future. Well, I was expecting that loose powdery dust surface, which I don't mind, I really don't. I wasn't expecting it to be as smooth as this. You can see Clevedon here clearly. Well, I can honestly say I've never been along here before. The wind's either dropped or I've got it behind me now. It was quite brutal around Weston-super-Mare where you saw the sand flying up. May hear an aeroplane. It's just taking off from Bristol Airport. Flying overhead now. Gosh, some poppies along here. That's why I love my cycle holidays in June. I just always link poppies with my June cycling holidays. As I said, I can't wait. I will be doing a kit test just before I go. I aim to do an overnight camp. I'll tell you more about that at the end of this video actually, because that may well be the next video coming up. Ah, here we are. Gone onto that loose dusty surface, which I really don't mind at all. Well, I think this is self-explanatory. This is the River Yeo, and there used to be a bridge here. Look, there's the supports for it, so the railway would have carried on that way. We're going round in a loop, or I can see some cyclists heading that way. And there's some pictures of the bridge in its heyday. That's the way we've come, towards Mendips. You can see the main road. I can just see a lorry going along there. We're heading round that way, so we're going to do a big loop round. I just saw some cyclists heading up that way. Oh, there's a couple of swans there, look. So this looks like an old Environment Agency bridge, which we've got permission to use. Hello.
Hi.
There's the River Yeo. So there must be a bridge along here. See. Oh, look at the wind still. Now we're going to go into it very briefly. just turning very briefly into the wind. Can you see there? That's why I spoke to you over there. Of course, railway would have come here. Now we're back on the track bed. Gosh, it's so easy to think, oh, the wind's dropped. But that little loop there made me realise how strong it still is. Just beneficial. I just hope it's going to be blowing me out from Clevedon. Oh, this is so nice. Not only is it nice, it really does serve a purpose. It really, really does. For walkers, cyclists, horse riders. It just avoids that very busy road over there. Off to the sharp right by the look of it. Another notice board. Let's see what this says. This says Mud Lane Halt. Yes, you are here, the stars. So there we are. There's a picture of it. Gosh, that really was a halt, wasn't it? Looks like it's just a place to load on milk churns. Oh no, there's some people there, look. Wow. The halt with passengers, look. It's like something out of a Will Hay film, isn't it? Right, we're going that way. Oh, that's handy. 1 mile to Kingston Seymour, 3 miles to Yatton, and then 6 miles to Clevedon. Oh, it looks like we're back on some country lanes. So we're back on some minor roads. This peer-to-peer route linking Weston-super-Mare, Clevedon, across these lovely plains and flats in between the two towns. Seems to be a combination of old railway track, farm tracks, minor roads like this, service roads up to Environment Agency bridges and outstations. Must be a lot of negotiation that goes on behind the scenes. A lot of hard work. Just to allow it to be legally joined up without any missing links or danger of trespass. I said to you recently on the Windsor Hill Greenway, I believe, this is third-hand news, that there's been an objection to planning permission across the Bath Road Viaduct. I could have that wrong, but I was told that, and it does seem to be gated and the activity seems to have ground to a halt. You've only got to get one person, a landowner, who objects to things like this going past their property, and they've got every right to object, haven't they? And go through the legal process to try and stop it or even delay it. So the hard work that must go into something like this is incredible, really, behind the scenes. I can tell from local knowledge, I'm coming into the outskirts of Clevedon, and I do know just before we get there, there's a track that goes round the coast off to the left. That looks like it's coming up now. So we're going to be taking this track towards the sea, I believe. Right. So as well as the crunch of gravel, I can hear the roar of water, almost like a waterfall. I don't know whether that's the tide coming in or what. This is all new to me. I've never been along here before. And this is the bit I'd seen from other people's rides on Strava. Some of my friends I follow. This is the bit that I've been really looking forward to. It does feel like the sea is just over the other side of that slope we're coming up to. What are we going to see? The sea. It was the waves I could hear. So that big lump there looks like a huge spaceship. That was Qstoke Woods at the north end of Weston-super-Mare. So we rode all around the edge of that. We've been making our way up here. Wow, what an amazing sound. The peer-to-peer route will carry on into the town and finish by Clevedon Pier. But I'm going to turn right along one of the variations of the River Yeo, and I'll be heading back that way. Gosh, can you see that big gap in the hills? I think that's where the motorway goes through. I just love this bit. Final run in alongside the sea, or the Bristol Channel should I say. Somewhere along here it becomes a Severn estuary. Going to ride along that sea front path. All I can say is a lot of these routes look like walking paths that have been known to locals for years, but to join it all up and make it rideable and legal, accessible for people like me who just want to follow a GPS. I'm just so grateful to do this. As I said, it really does serve a purpose. It really does keep cyclists off busy roads. Nothing against cars, it's beneficial for them as well, isn't it? Just going to carry on along here. When we join this variation of the River Yeo, I'd imagine it'll be before that little cliff there. We're going to turn right, start heading back towards Bath. I'll speak to you there. As I said earlier, I've been seeing photographs and video clips from some of the people I follow on Facebook, my friends. And this is the bit that I thought, where's that? I've got to go there. So now I'm here. I'm just so grateful to all the people and the organisations who've put this together, because clearly the locals know about these footpaths and I've known about the lanes, but whoever worked out the route and got the legal access for somebody like me just to follow this. It feels like I'm on holiday and I'm coming into a location I've never been to before, and that's just not the case. I've been to Clevedon many times, but it feels like new territory. I've just never been along here. I didn't know this existed, or I've never been able to find this. Oh, I'm just savouring every moment of this. The sun's come out, warm again, and this was the bit that I was really looking forward to. Better than I expected, actually. So we're coming into South Clevedon on the Bristol Channel. Wow, look at this little baby coming into. I've just never been here before. I'm now asking myself, why not? It's been made so easy to find and navigate. Oh, there's a really strong smell of salt water here. Golf course by the look of it, yellow flag. Oh, there's a red one up there. Yeah, I think we're running alongside the golf course. So we're heading up to a river. I get a feeling that might be the mouth of it, this variation of the Yeo. I can see a boat there, just to the right of that cliff there. I think we're going to be leaving Clevedon that way. Leaving before we've almost arrived. Wow. Yep, this is my turning point. This is one of the River Yeos. So Clevedon straight on. Now I'm going to head back towards Bath that way, be a few hours alongside this river, climb up over Lowes Gate, past Bristol Airport, drop down into the True Valley, then climb up towards Corston, and I'll finish the video with one of my favourite views after a long ride coming back into Bath with about 3 miles to go to my home. I'll see you there in a few hours time. It's now about an hour later and I'm halfway home. I've slightly changed my route a bit, trying to avoid a B road, which is normally okay, but I kind of hit it at rush hour and it's got a lot of Bristol Airport traffic, staff, passengers, that sort of thing, and locals commuting. So this is the lovely River Chew I'm stood over in the lovely village of Chew Magna. Ironically, see that pub behind me? I eyed that up so many times when I was doing my long Audax riding. I'd quite often come back through here really frazzled, you know, with about 10-12 miles to go. in the winter it'd all be lit up at night. It looked so inviting, it was almost tempting me in. And I thought, when I've finished my super random around the year, I'm going to go in there. And anyway, I did a camping trip. I deliberately came back here middle of the day, middle of the week, so I know it's open during the day, and it was closed because they were refurbishing it, so I've still never been in. So I've got 11 miles back over the hills into Bath. So it's a lovely evening. It's probably going to be about 6:30, 6:45, maybe 7 p.m. by the time I get home. I've had a fantastic day out. It'll be about 83, 84 miles. I'll put the route on the end screen when I finish. My next video may or may not be a camping trip. When I was riding the Athelstan Pilgrim Way last year, I was trying to complete one benefice at a time. It didn't always work out that way. And I think it's the Braden Brook benefice. One of the benefices was a bit further away from Bath, and so I decided to camp up there. And I stayed on this lovely organic farm, and I've always wanted to go back. Sometime in the next couple of weeks, it may or may not be the next video, I'm going to go there overnight. Just give me a chance to ride my bike fully laden, test everything, make sure nothing's creaking. And I'm even going to use the camping app. When I'm about 3 or 4 miles away, I'll try and home in using the app, and I'll see what else is there, even though my Garmin track will take me right there, just to get the hang of using the app again. So it's like a test run, really, a rollout of my equipment ready for the cycle tour in 5 weeks' time. 5 weeks' time today, I'll be there. As I say, I've come off the B road. I'm going to head up. It's a little bit hilly over there, and then drop back down, get on the bicycle track, ride back into Bath. I'll be home in about an hour and a half. It's just so lovely, it really, really is. Anyway, if you got this far, hope you enjoyed coming along. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye for now.